Week in the Peace, a show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region.
Good morning. I'm Dub Craig. Welcome to the show. We're hoping to have Tumbler Ridge Mayor Darryl Krakowka on the show this morning. As you can well understand, he's been very busy, so we're hoping to hook up with him in just a little bit here. But first,
later we'll... Oh, sorry about that. And the City of Fort St. John has been a flurry of activity in recent months, from starting work on the municipal budgets that are due in 2 months, several major infrastructure projects slated for later this year, and a newly reimagined annual winter festival currently ongoing in downtown Fort St. John. Joining us today to give us some insight into some of these major topics is Lilia Hansen, the Mayor of Fort St. John. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
So, before we get into the interview, I just want to touch on Tumbler Ridge and the tragedy that struck that community on February 11th. Is there anything you'd like to say with regards to this?
It's crushing. Our hearts, our sympathies are with the residents and the families, the friends of the victims in Tumbler Ridge. This is a tragedy that one never expects to see in such a tight-knit community. The North, we're very strong and resourceful, and I know we're going to pull together. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Absolutely. And is there a message you want to send to residents of Fort St. John who are worried at this time? What is the city doing in response to this tragedy with regards to mental health or emotional support here?
That's an excellent question. I've been in contact talking with Chiro from Northern Health, the president and CEO. I've had conversations immediately with the Minister of Health, Minister Josie Osborne, reaching out to our partners and also to our service providers. I think it's really important that we collectively work together and try to fill those gaps, but also better understanding what services we have here. I think it's so important, of the utmost importance, that we have these vital resources here in person in the North. We need to be able to make those connections immediately. When a parent reaches out to me and they're looking for help, we have to say, here's your next step, here's who you contact.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, and I'm sure everyone will be very appreciative of that and all those resources that are provided. Going on to different topics here, specifically in Fort St. John, last week we had water conservation efforts in the city because a leak was being worked on and eventually fixed. Tell me a little bit about that situation. I'm aware that the city has said that the leak was found back in December and has now fully been fixed.
Yeah, I'm really glad to talk about that. I'm really glad we were able to fix it so fast. Staff detected the leak back in December, and they started working on, making sure they got their contractors together, the materials, the permits. I think it's always good on the city side that we also learn what it's like having to pull a permit and the complexities that come with that. And then we had a good weather window, so we got to work on that, and I'm really glad to say we were able to have just a minor disruption on that. We wanted to make sure, though, that we gave enough opportunities and notice to our neighbors. We did have to close, regrettably, our bulk water filling station for a couple of days, just to make sure that our water reservoirs stayed at an adequate amount. And I want to give a really big shout out to all those businesses that took advanced steps to help us with that conservation of water. And, the reason why we're asking for it is not only do we want our residents still to be able to turn on their taps and have water in their homes, but in case of an emergency, we needed to make sure we had enough water if we had to fight a fire.
Absolutely. Even when it's cold out, you have to keep those things in mind. And especially with the temperatures, the weather window was kind of ideal because you weren't having to fight. I imagine the ground was still a little bit cold, but you weren't having to fight like minus 40 to get this water fixed. Yeah,
definitely. And especially when we're working with cement and, the excavating work on that. Big shout out to staff and the contractors. They put in long days to try and make the work in a shorter time.
And that's always good. Are there any other problem areas in water infrastructure that the city is kind of either looking at for now or keeping an eye on that might be a concern later down the line?
You know what? I'm really glad to talk about. We have a new water reservoir that we're going to be breaking ground on this spring. And this reservoir, it's going to be larger than our current one. The capacity is going to be increased by 30%. And it's a really important investment of what we're making in the community. Having clean, potable drinking water and having that reliability is important. It's our 106th Avenue reservoir. It'll be close to the same location of where our current one is. And when we have that in place, next we're going to be replacing the liner along our reservoir on Northern Lights Drive.
Okay. And when you're doing that 106th Street reservoir, is there going to be either similar or separate water interruptions, obviously, when you're switching stuff over, or are you hoping it's going to be a pretty seamless?
Because we have redundancies, which was very smartly put into place, we will still be able to provide water to our residents. It should be more seamless.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked about this reservoir a lot, and I know we've covered
I'm
it a lot.
excited. If I
Yes.
go to a dinner party or with my friends, I'm going, I got to tell you about my water reservoir. It's like a once in a lifetime project, but it's an investment. I think it's about $8.5 million. Like, it is not a small project. And it's something that, working on the project right from the conception, the location, the materials, and the contractors, putting it together, trying to make sure we don't have change orders coming in. This project is, it's going to be, a legacy for the community.
And why... I know you can't fully break down those costs, but why is this such an expensive thing? I know it's a massive structure, but why is there so much specialization that goes into it? I understand that the city has hired a contractor. There's all sorts of specializations that have to be done out of house. Is that part of why it's so expensive?
I think that, there's multiple portions to it. I mean, we even had to do a study for shadows. What is this large, tall building going to do for, the neighboring community, because it is taller on that. I think like most building projects, you need to have, the solid base and building it from there. But it's a very specialized piece of equipment that's needed, and what's being built for the reservoir itself and the lining inside of it, and because a lot of communities, it's not an everyday project. From my understanding, this will be like a 50-60 year structure. This will be a structure that our children and grandchildren will be looking at for repair in the future, compared to every generation. So again, it really is like a once in a lifetime project.
And obviously construction will be disruptive for the area, at the very least the residents who will be in earshot of it. But will those residents will anything change for them after construction is done? Like you said, it's a taller structure. Obviously, you've done all the research with regards to shadows and how it looks in the community. I've seen some artist renderings. What can those residents in and around 106th, in earshot and in eyesight of it, what can they expect?
During construction, there will be those nuisances. We will have staff on site. They'll be reaching out to the neighbors. If there's any concerns, definitely, reach out to council or to staff. We'd be glad to address it and get them the answers that they're looking for.
And obviously, we don't have a set date down to the minute at this point, because of course weather is fickle and it's sometime in the spring, as you said. But I imagine that there will be some notices sent out. It won't just be overnight, all of a sudden there's construction in their backyards.
Fort St. John, we're getting pretty good when it comes to construction. And we learn as we go along. And I think having that communication is important with the community, but especially those in the neighborhood. And
kind of last question on this one. What's going to happen to the old reservoir that it is replacing? As I understand, the new one is on a separate portion of the same property. Correct. Is that reservoir going to stay? Is it going to be eventually dismantled? What's going to happen with that?
It'll stay on site, untouched, until we have everything up and running. I think it's important to have those redundancies until we have everything flowing. And then from there, I imagine will be taken down. Regrettably, it's past its lifespan, and it's not going to be usable further.
All right. Let's talk everyone's favorite thing, budgets. Specifically over December, of course, historic amounts of snowfall. The city brought in contractors, so everyone knew the cost for this snow clearing was going to increase. And as we saw from presentations from the roads manager, $484,000, I believe, over budget. what other factors drove that increase for this year? And was it just that December was so snowy?
So in December, we had, I believe, 103 centimeters of snow alone.
Yeah.
I think in the year for 2025, we had about 200 centimeters. So December came at us hard. Something that was different this year for 2025 than in past years was we just kept getting pounded with snow. And so we didn't have that pause in between. We also brought in more contractors. One thing that we definitely hear from our residents, hands down, we need safe roads. We need transportation to go through. We need to make sure our emergency vehicles can get through, and focusing on our priority routes. This year, we've also prioritized in our downtown core, making sure we can get from curb to curb instead of pushing snow up to the side. This year, we're putting it in the center and then we're hauling it off. So we had different equipment that we brought in, everything from loaders, graders, bulldozers. So those contract pieces of equipment, that definitely added to the project. People are looking for, timely snow removal. This year, we also put into place on having our different categories and including residential areas where people know every 2 weeks that they could expect to see some snow clearing in their area. Regrettably, some of those neighborhoods were not touched every 2 weeks because as soon as we have another 10 centimeters of snow on the ground, we have to get our crews back onto our priority one routes.
Yep, absolutely, and that's completely understandable. And talking about the budget overall, obviously, we don't have a budget prepared yet because I believe they're due in April, I think it is.
So we're still in draft.
Yes, so you're still draft. I think you've had your first presentation by the Director of Finance. Specifically, there are two budgets. So it's the capital budget and the operating budget.
Correct.
Why are they separate and do they interact at all?
I'm really glad you have an opportunity to discuss this. Last night I was at the Fort St. John Petroleum Association, and it gave me a good opportunity to talk exactly about that. So we have our operations budget, and that funding we collect through taxation, through, properties are assessed, and we create a mill rate in order to cover our operation costs. So that comes directly from our property taxation. And then we have our capital budget. This year, we're expecting to do like $54 million in capital projects, and we're able to pay for that. We're blessed in the Peace region with the Peace River funds that we receive, and that's money that's collected through taxation of industry that works around our boundary. And we also have other grants. It was called the gas tax on that. And what Fort St. John does, and I'm grateful for previous councils having that mindset and leadership. We need to make sure we have the money, we have reserves, so that we can do the work. So everything from our street repairs, our lights, our parks. There are so many projects that we need that touch everyday lives.
Okay, and one of the things that touches everyday lives of most people in Fort St. John, especially at this time of year, is formerly High on Ice, now Winterfest. We're about halfway through the month now. I know it was expanded from just this, it would have been this coming weekend, to the entire month of February. How are things going so far, and is there anything new coming starting this weekend that people can look forward to?
Yes. Yeah, starting, beginning of February, it was fantastic. We had, opening events at Kin Park, and I really hope people got out there to enjoy.
Yep.
I sure did. We had sleigh rides in Kin Park. We had our staff clear some trails through. We had, multiple sleighs pulling families through the park. We had at our pavilion hot chocolate and s'mores. We had the Siberian Huskies there.
Yep.
We had a petting zoo. There were families out on, both skating surfaces and music. It really was fantastic to see how many people came out. And I really love to see how the community is engaged all month long. We have different grants, and we have people, that they're doing karaoke, or through their business, they're having really neat events. And this weekend, we're sure looking forward to seeing our international ice carvers, welcoming them back to our community. And then on Monday, we're going to have our tower where we have the trees inside. Last year it was shaped as a dragon. That was really cool, and the kids love it. They get so excited, and when everything comes crashing down, there's even axe throwing this weekend. There's lots going on at Festival Plaza. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. And obviously people, especially now driving past, always the slides have been something that catches my eye, but now there's a massive mountain of snow where people can slide off. So that must be something that kind of draws people in off the street.
20th year, bigger and better. So we do have our 360 ice slide, and it is a lot of fun, and it's for all ages. I mean, even council, we challenge each other. We're a little bit competitive, and we have our slide off on it. And I kid you not, you just kind of giggle. Okay, maybe Trevor Bullen doesn't giggle. I giggle going down, and it's a lot of fun. But I think what's most heartwarming is to see how many families and adults are out there and they're having a great time on that. So thank you to MNP for sponsoring that. Each year we have 12,000 and 20,000. We have a counter of how many people are using it. It's one of our most favorite activities. And when I get to visit the schools and we talk to the kids, what are some things that you love about our community? What do you want to see more of? Making sure that we keep our ice slides coming back each year. That's one of our number one requests.
I can imagine that's very popular. And kind of tying back to the budget real quick, because there were a couple of reasons from what I understand that staff kind of presented to council about why it was changed from, just a long weekend to a month packed full of activities. And it kind of seems counterintuitive, but one of them was financing. And one of the things that they proposed was this would be a more financially it's easier for the city to do both on staffing and on finances. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how a month of activities is slightly less expensive than just 3 days of it?
I'd be glad to. And that really comes down to our partnerships with community organizations. They're taking up, some of the projects themselves, which is really a great thing to see. And again, Mother Nature, who today is shining on us. While I am very pleased to see the sunshine, this morning as I'm out walking, it is a challenge when we're trying to have our ice carvings out and working on that, spreading it out. Last year, we did not have as many of our planned activities had to be canceled just because the weather wasn't there. So I think that we spread it out. We're able to have more opportunities, that we do have to change the dates.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Mayor. And I definitely look forward to getting out and getting on the hill especially.
Okay, maybe we should have a slide off.
I don't think so.
Come on, Monday, you and me.
All right.
Yeah?
Well, that sounds good.
5 o'clock.
Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure.
That was Fort St. John Mayor Lilia Hansen. We'll be right back with Tumbler Ridge Mayor Darryl Krakowka on This Week in the Peace.
The Crystal Cup is back. February 20th through the 22nd, Charlie Lake will host the coolest outdoor hockey tournament in the North, but it needs you. They'll have loads of events and fun for kids of all ages, even if you're not playing hockey. And an open beer garden for the adults. It all starts Friday, February 20th at 5 p.m. and wraps up Sunday evening. The Crystal Cup Hockey Tournament. To register, drop in at the FSJ Visitors Center in the Pomeroy Sports Center.
That was some party thanks to my buddy's beer and joint. Here's the keys, joint.
Yo, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, beer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Come on, Dave. Take one for the team.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
A message from Mad Canada.
The Lido is the ultimate hotspot for entertainment in the Peace region. They've had some of the biggest names in the business grace their stage and provide a showcase for local entertainers. At the Lido, they're about creating the vibe for all events. Concerts, comedy nights, weddings, meetings, or fundraisers, you name it, they've got you covered. They're also home to Fort St. John's only rooftop patio, the Luna Lounge. Want to book an event or grab some tickets to an upcoming show? Just head on over to thelido.ca. So what are you waiting for? The Lido Theater is the place to be.
Step into the world of Aurora Collectibles, where your next great find is waiting. From One Piece, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Lorcana, to sports cards, figures, Hot Wheels, Lego, video games, and so much more. Discover the magic of Aurora Collectibles, your Bandai Namco store in Fort St. John. Stop in today and ask them about the weekly mystery box draw. Aurora Collectibles, 10404 101st Avenue in Fort St. John. Follow them on Facebook to see all the latest.
The Fort St. John Arts Council invites you to the 40th Annual Art Auction Gala, March the 7th at the Pomeroy Hotel. This year's theme is the Roaring Twenties, so dress to impress in your best vintage flair. Enjoy a delicious buffet, exciting auctions, raffles, a 50-50 draw, and more. Tickets are on sale now through the North Peace Cultural Centre website and may not be available at the door. Don't miss out. Get your tickets before they're gone.
If you're thinking of selling your home, the #1 ranked realtor in BC is right here in Fort St. John. Ellie Chi helped over 100 families in 2024 alone, giving her deep experience, smart pricing instincts, and a sharp pulse on where the market's headed. Backed by a rockstar team, she makes the process seamless with clear communication every step of the way. Local knowledge, trusted advice, real results. Visit elichi.ca to book your free home evaluation. That's ELICHI.ca.
You can watch this show live on Facebook, catch the replays at energeticcity.ca, or be part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dub Craig. I believe we may have Tumbler Ridge Mayor Darryl Krakowka on the line with us now. Mayor, can you hear us?
I can, and can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you so much, Mayor, for working through our various technical difficulties to make this happen. I appreciate you making some time for us today. While I gather my notes together here, why don't we start with you, if you don't mind, for a second? I mean, how are you holding up after what's been a tremendously difficult week for you and your community?
Yeah, I don't think it's about myself and how I'm holding up. I mean, we'll go through that day by day, but it's really about the community, family, one big family here. And, I think people are really starting to move around the community and talk with each other and hugging each other. I think that's what's important. It's about the community. It's about the ones that have lost loved ones and which are part of our big family. It's about making sure we're there to support them.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the day of the tragedy for a moment, if we can. I mean, I imagine you're sitting in your office or wherever you happen to be, and you kind of get the first word that something's going on. How did that day unfold for you? Were you privy to more information than we were kind of hearing or residents were hearing, or I suppose you were kind of hearing the same things everybody else was when it came down to it?
Yeah, I got the same update. I had no updated information before anybody else seen the alert. There were some people in the store, some moms and stuff, and I'm not sure if their children had texted them or whatever, but they asked me about it, and I was very stumped at my business. I'm a local business, and again, I was trying to grapple it, and before I could try to reach out to find out what was going on, that's when the alert went off on my phone.
And I mean, this is it's so difficult to sort of talk about, but you have this unbelievable day happen, and then it's about, okay, well, what's next? What's next? It must be difficult to sort of look ahead beyond, as you say already, kind of going day for day or day to day based upon what everyone needs. Talk a bit about that for a moment, if you will, just sort of where you're at with your community. I know there's a vigil that's being planned for tonight. I suppose there's nothing really long-term being looked at here in terms of what's support going to look like. What are we doing differently, if anything, in terms of security in the community?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest, as the details were unfolding on Tuesday, more updates coming and more information coming from first responders and such. Ministry started reaching out right away, the Premier's office, Minister Kruger with public safety. And, my first comment was, we didn't know we had casualties, didn't know if we had injuries yet. I'll be honest, that information hadn't come. And my first comment was, we are going to need counselors, boots on the ground in Tumbler Ridge, either tonight, which would have been Tuesday, or Wednesday morning. And the province had people, and again, I can't confirm if it was Tuesday night they arrived, but they arrived so late, but they were established within our community on Wednesday. 5 counselors had been here. We're out here on Wednesday at 5 of them on Wednesday for Northern Health. School District 59 is also brought in counselors for staff and students and whoever needs it through the facilities there. so that was important. I mean, the province reaction was quick to make sure we had support counselors in our community for anybody that needed it, the youth, the teenagers, the children, the families, the adults. So when we talk about long term, I mean, as it unfolded and more conversations with the provincial government is, this isn't 1 or 2 days or a week or two. Like, my thing is long term. We need at least a commitment of 6 months with boots on the ground with counseling for our community, and we can as we see fit. Whether that's in a couple months, we get back together and see, do we still need this many or do we need more? Mm-hmm. It's very important. I mean, we need to make sure that the families here have all the support they need from whether it's counseling or whatever. And we'll hear more from our community of things that we're missing. And Premier Eby was here, and his comments are, please keep me updated with the community needs, and I plan on doing that. The Prime Minister has also reached out and mentioned the same things, and I told him, working with the province, this is what we've asked for now, and more to come as you meet with the community and such, and we start to grapple what actually happened here with this tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the vigil tonight, I don't have all the information in front of me, so maybe you can help me out with that as well. There is one plan for tonight. And again, as you mentioned, I mean, the Prime Minister, the Governor General, leaders of the opposition parties, provincial politicians from all over are coming or are planning to come to this vigil. Talk a bit about that for a minute, about what's going to happen there and kind of the times and places. And if this is for obviously mainly residents of Tumbler Ridge who are affected, but if this is something that people who want to show support from Fort St. John, from Dawson Creek, from Chetwynd, from even beyond, if this is something that they're welcome to attend.
Yeah, so I mean, more detailed, I mean, I know they've gotten some stuff out, and I mean, staff and all that are working very, very hard to get everything out and make sure it's out there. It does start at 6 p.m. It's going to be out at the front of the town hall. And when we talk about all the leadership coming, it's again, this is an open vigil. It's open for everybody. I mean, we believe it's important. There was a vigil on Wednesday that was organized by a very huge group of the community, and man, they did an amazing job. So it's not to take away from that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we're trying to respect that one as well. But I think it's important that we have an open vigil, that if other communities want to come and support the families of Tumbler Ridge or the friends that they have that are living here, our first responders and having other first responders come from other communities to show that support. I think it's important. And when we talk about government, again, it's open to everybody. It wasn't, the vigil was not set just so the Prime Minister can make it and the Premier. It's for the community. It is for, across Canada, across the world.
Yeah.
The condolences that, the community's received and stuff. I think it's important. A part of the grieving is to make sure we have an open vigil and work through the process. And, to me, when we see government coming, there's no party lines. There is what's so important. This isn't political. In my view, this is non-political. This is about what is Tumbler Ridge going to need short term, medium term, and long term. And, we need to be straight frank about what our thoughts we may need as elected officials. What's the best way to support our community? And we'll be doing that with the Prime Minister and Premier Eby, the ministry staff. Again, to me, this is not political whatsoever. And it is about the families. We've lost loved ones in our community. We have grieving families, and we need to respect that. But again, I believe it's part of that grieving stage as a community, as a full, huge family in Tumbler Ridge. I really believe it's important.
All right. Well, final question I want to focus on for a moment. The helpers. I mean, you've mentioned the first responders already. You've mentioned sort of the support you've received in sort of official sources like the governments of BC and Canada and whatnot. But we see these GoFundMes that have been set up, and less than 24 hours later, hundreds of thousands of dollars raised. CIBC stepping up. Lakeview Credit Union, I believe, was one of them who stepped up. More than I can kind of list off the top of my head right now. What has that meant to you to see that out of this truly horrible thing that happened, people came together so quickly to say, how can we help you and help the community of Tumbler Ridge to begin to grieve and maybe even begin to start the healing process from this unspeakable tragedy?
Yeah, again, it's not about me. I can't say that enough. It's not about me. What I see, and I'll be honest, I haven't had an opportunity to even be on social media. I do get on Messenger because of the messages I'm receiving from my community, and trying to reach out to people that have reached back out from the community. But I think what this is doing, Lakeview Credit Union, CIBC, the GoFundMes, these families need support. And, to me, eventually they'll have the opportunity to thank everybody as well. I mean, these people, we have some injured youth in hospital that families are with right now, and they need the support too. But yeah, I think it's huge. It's too bad a tragedy has to happen. And, but yeah, I mean, we thank everybody that's supporting all these, the GoFundMes, the CIBC bank account, which I didn't know about until you said, but Lakeview Credit Union. I look at even locally, obviously the Lakeview Credit Union, but locally, Lush Desserts, free coffee, free snacks all day if you want to come and gather at a local bakery that's run by an amazing young lady. North Star Kitchen, I know they've been donating food to wherever they can. Twisted Bistro, same thing. It's I don't think there's a business in this community that has not stepped up to offer and do anything and everything they can. For the community, for the residents, the families that are here, anything. It's nothing's too small or big to ask what people need, because as a business community, they're all coming together. We look at Kanuma Resources, again, a fairly large industry partner. They've been just outstanding. Other people the other industries are involved. Finning, IMW, La Prairie Crane. It's overwhelming.
All right.
This community is so strong. So.
Absolutely. Well, Darryl, I know you've had a very busy couple days and you're continuing to have one. So I appreciate you taking some time to chat with us on a very difficult subject. And I just want to say our condolences towards you and your community during this difficult time. Thank you for making some time for us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Once again, that is the mayor of Tumbler Ridge, Darryl Krakowka, joining us from Tumbler Ridge this morning. Again, we thank him very much for taking some time, and we want to thank Fort St. John Mayor Lilia Hansen for joining us as well today.
And thank you for tuning in. If you would like to donate to the fundraising that's going on to support the victims in Tumbler Ridge, we've compiled links and information about donating in one place. You can check that out at moosemediafsj.ca/Tumbler Ridge.
That's our show. I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Caitlin Coombs. We'll see you next time.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace Region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at energeticcity.ca.